Valorant was released in October 2019 and is a game that players play like crazy. Many people are trying to defeat the opposing group and improve their weapon skills. But have you ever wondered what this fighting among ourselves is for? Why do we use a device called Spike instead of throwing explosives at an area? In this video, I will explain the unknown story of Valorant to you. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on all notifications, and like. Enjoy watching. Unlike other popular FPS games, Valorant takes place in a more advanced time period within the League of Legends universe. This is evident from the unusually advanced ammunition and items within Valorant. A post that Riot Games quickly removed from their website definitively confirms Valorant's time period. It featured a calendar on the wall during Valorant's first updates, but it was later deleted. Looking at the calendar, we could see that Valorant was set in the year 2053. However, Riot Games hastily removed the year and the split map from the game. They didn't offer much explanation for these actions. How do you think the world of this game was formed? How did we transition to technologies more advanced than our present time? In the past, people lived normal lives until that light emanating from a region of the world. After that flash, people's lives completely changed, and the source of this phenomenon was always investigated. Was it the source of a scientific experiment or an alien invasion? No one even had much time to find the source of the light, because after that, the world entered a process of complete transformation. You see these maps that everyone's playing on. They're all made up of settlements, towns, cities, and places like that. These are areas where everyone lived happily in the past. However, some of these areas are industrialized and in ruins. This industrialization isn't like what you might imagine. It's all the result of the transformation process after that first light. The main source of the light that caused all this destruction is an object called Radianite. This object alters the DNA of all living things it comes into contact with, disrupting their carbon structures. Everyone whose DNA was altered gained some supernatural powers. These people are called Radiants. Not long after the first light, people become aware of their superpowers, and soon, Radiants with supernatural powers begin to roam everywhere. Some were murdering people, others were robbing banks. Therefore, a solution had to be found. So, a small but secretive group created a protocol, the Valorant Protocol. The organization's intention was to control and regulate the troublesome Radiants. To do this, they built a powerful organization and didn't care much about anyone's status. Whether they had a long criminal record or had served prison sentences, anyone suitable was invited to join the group, because the main goal of the Valorant Protocol was to stop the elusive Radiants. Therefore, people with expertise in technologies and experience in this area were recruited. Since Radiants possess superpowers, intervening against them alone isn't a very logical course of action. So, governments found a few Radiants they could cooperate with, and the Radiants decided to fight each other again. The people brought into this group were called agents. In fact, all the characters we play in Valorant are agents who are part of this protocol. Some use powers granted by objects, while others rely entirely on technology. To truly understand the Valorant Protocol, we need to learn about the backgrounds of these characters and the purpose for which they were recruited into the organization. Let's start with the Radiants, who have no superpowers and rely entirely on technology. Brimstone comes from America. It has access to orbiting weapons, allowing it to conduct tactical aerial attacks. The K logo above it indicates its partnership. This logo can be seen in several areas of the game. For example, on the Haven map in Area B, at the Spike planting site, we encounter this logo. This logo belongs to a company called Kingdom. Indeed, Kingdom's technologies are the target of the attacks. However, I will explain the reason for this later. Viper is also an American citizen and a former scientist. This is clearly visible in the cards found in the game. He previously conducted research on poisonous gases. As we can see from the cipher cards, he is an engineer. In one of his dialogues, we hear him say, "Radianite should be ours," which gives us an idea of his interest in this material. Sova is a Russian archer. He's part of a team that uses bows and arrows, and he has an artificial eye in place of the one he lost. Thanks to the special properties of his arrows, he can see people through walls and perceive their location. Breach is a Swiss agent. His past profession is unknown. He has 2 robotic arms, one of which has a logo that we never see in the game. This logo likely belongs to a different company that hates Kingdom. And our last character is Reis. He's a Brazilian technician who enjoys working with explosives and experimenting with them. Now, let's get to the main part. Let's talk about our other characters. Jet is a Korean citizen and a Radiant. He can control the wind. This allows him to fly, make himself lighter than air to glide, and dash around very quickly. All of this is beyond the object itself. It's a result of his interaction with nature. In short, he can bend the air. Phoenix comes from the United Kingdom and can manipulate fire. If you've gone blind, it's simply because it uses an extremely bright flame. Sage comes from China. She can build walls by interacting with her environment and controlling crystal structures. She also possesses a very powerful ability, such as being able to resurrect the dead. Our last character is Omen. We know this character is an immortal being. He himself admits to having died many times. In fact, when Sage resurrected a human, Omen's words were quite striking. Do you know where this life you gave him came from? In short, according to Omen's understanding, to resurrect a human, a soul is transferred from a different region, from a different living being. In this way, while a human is resurrected in one region, other living beings in another region are subjected to death. However, Omen wasn't actually death itself. It's wearing a cloak, but I'm not sure if it counts as a cloak. You can share your thoughts in the comments. If you look closely, you can see the Kingdom logo on it. This logo tells us that experiments were conducted on Omen. It likely underwent several processes in the past, resulting in its transformation into Radiant in a way that wasn't natural. Now, my friends, let me tell the story a bit more through the maps in Valorant. I'll start with one of the maps where we encounter the sharpest impact of objects on the environment. In this map, when we enter a match as the defending team, we need to look behind us. Right behind us is a box, and inside that box is a green object. This is Radianite. We learn how much even a small box can change the universe. However, the box's presence seems to have a different purpose. The real event is the communication center established around the box. Thanks to receivers communicating with the satellite and cables connecting these systems, all bombing zones in the starting area can be reached. There are exactly 3 bombing zones on this map, and all 3 of these zones contain Radianite. This raises a question. How can there be so much Radianite in all the bombing zones? Why did they specifically choose these 3 areas? These are the areas with the most Radianite in Valorant. The answer to these questions is probably hidden in that mysterious box that appears behind us when we enter a match. After the light explosion, this point was largely affected and turned into a resource zone. Kingdom, seeing this location, may have always tried to increase its power by generating Radianite from this area. For example, when you go to Area B and look up, you can see that this is an active zone. There is an extreme amount of Radianite in this area. If you look down, you can see a very large elevator. However, what we see is actually only the tip of the iceberg. The real story lies much deeper underground. There's an extremely large storage area on the lower floors. We've already learned how Radianite creates these superpowers and what it does to people. Now, we're moving on to the gameplay part. This object needs to be completely eliminated to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. That's why Spike takes on the task. Spike is a device designed to break up the existing Radianite and render it completely unusable. The opposing group's intention is to place the Spike intact in these storage areas, damaging the stockpile. There's another strange detail here. We see the familiar K logo again on Spike. In short, while the company is trying to remove this object, they've also designed a technology to stop it if necessary. Why? To neutralize it if it falls into the wrong hands? Or is it related to some people secretly continuing the projects after internal disagreements within the company? There's no definitive information on this, but there are serious problems within the company. Let's take a look at some different areas of the map. For example, Area A again contains Radianite storage facilities. However, Point C is very important because it is connected to Point B. Both points have elevators that transport Radianite to the lower floors. Looking at the Bind map, we learn that this area is an extremely large factory built on top of an ordinary city. Large metal structures belonging to the Kingdom Corporation are everywhere, and experiments are being conducted inside. However, the area we really need to pay attention to is the reactor. The reactor consists of a black energy and is very dense. If you noticed, it's exactly like the black substance that splattered when Spike exploded. You can also see posters on the walls in many parts of the map. These posters heavily criticize the Kingdom Corporation. In fact, according to rumors, a character in one of these posters is the same person who joined the game as an agent after its release. Cypher's statement in a speech, "Look what they're doing to my city," also supports this. When we look at the map of Split, we see very tall skyscrapers at the top. Most of them belong to Kingdom. In fact, you can understand that the entire city actually belongs to the company. Even the subways are under their control. For example, there are coffee shops, and their logos are exactly the same as Kingdom's logo. Perhaps Fade worked as an employee in one of these coffee shops, similar to Starbucks, and then gained his powers. Ultimately, all of these people had a past life and lived ordinary lives. Looking at the map again, the spike zones here are different from other maps. You start creating spikes opposite a company at the 2000 metro station. The objects, which are usually green and found in containers, are orange here and connected to a massive reactor. This likely symbolizes that when energy usage begins, the object's color changes from green to orange. In fact, if we look at the alpha version of the game, all these boxes were orange and essentially considered active. It seems they later thought, let's also include a passive version. This area is still under construction. Therefore, they've moved the ammunition and experimental equipment to the upper floors. When we first start the game, we're touring this upper area. What's below is still not certain. And here we are at the end of another story. If this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll make part 2 of the Valorant story. If you liked this video, I make videos like this every week on this channel. If you really don't want to miss this kind of content, subscribe for free now, turn on all notifications, and like the video, because everything on this channel is very detailed, high quality, and proven. How many hours a day do you play Valorant, and what do you think of the game's mechanics? Let's chat in the comments, my friends.